In August 1892, a national pilgrimage train arrived in the Pyrenees, carrying thousands of patients into the mountains. They were traveling here, to the sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes, in search of a cure that modern medicine could not provide. Among them was the 52-year-old novelist Émile Zola, the era's most famous champion of strict materialism. Zola's motive was explicit. He intended to observe the sick, write a definitive novel, and provide a clinical autopsy of the Lourdes myth. He focused his scrutiny on 2 dying women, planning to monitor them to show that miracles were merely symptoms of misdiagnosed hysteria. But over the next few days, the clinical evidence he witnessed would challenge the foundational assumptions of his worldview. Zola's attempt to protect his ideology would inadvertently document the very anomalies he came to dismiss. To understand what Zola saw, we have to look at the work of Dr. Boissari and the medical review board he established. This is the Bureau des Constatations Médicales, a scientific filter designed to subject every claim of healing to rigorous medical assessment. We can evaluate the Bureau's 19th-century records today using the framework of Bayesian probability. This curve starts at a 50-50 prior. We do not assume miracles are impossible. We let the data move the needle. When we apply modern diagnostic standards to the Bureau's historical data, the probability moves steadily to the right. In probability theory, crossing the 75% threshold indicates the materialist hypothesis has become statistically improbable. By combining the Bureau's records with this analytical rigor, we can test whether these events yield to a natural explanation. In August 1892, Zola sat in the Bureau's examination room as Dr. Boissari presented the first case, Marie Lebranchu. Lebranchu suffered from advanced, bacteriologically confirmed pulmonary tuberculosis. Clinical medical reports clearly documented extensive tubercular cavities in her lungs, resulting in constant hemoptysis, the coughing of blood, and terminal cachexia. She weighed only 24 kilograms. Her body was essentially consumed by the disease. The second case, Marie Lemarchand, suffered from both pulmonary tuberculosis and facial lupus vulgaris. The lupus vulgaris was actively destroying the cartilage of her nose and cheek, leaving visible ulcerations. Zola described her in his notes as a distorted mass of matter and oozing blood. These were not functional nervous conditions. They were organic, lesional diseases with clear physical markers. Conversion disorder cannot dissolve a lung cavity or regenerate the cartilage of a human face. If these women recovered suddenly, it would dismantle the claim that Lourdes only cured psychosomatic patients. On August 20th, Marie Lebranchu was carried to these freezing waters at the grotto. The atmosphere was one of total communal expectation. Immediately after bathing, Lebranchu's hemorrhage stopped. Her vital color returned, and she began breathing normally for the first time in years. The next day, Lemarchand's facial lesions closed. Within hours, doctors observed fresh skin growing over the previously destroyed tissue. Physicians at the Bureau observed a rapid, visible restoration of anatomy. Zola was present for both examinations. He verified the new tissue personally and found no medical explanation for what he had seen. The physical reality of the tissue had forced a confrontation with his materialist philosophy. Zola left Lourdes shaken, unable to deny the clinical reality he had scrutinized alongside the doctors. 2 years later, he published his novel, Lourdes, attempting to reconcile these events with his disbelief. In the novel, he fictionalized Marie Lebranchu as La Grivotte. Zola wrote that she suffered a hysterical relapse on the train home, deteriorated, and died. But the Bureau's records tell a different story. Marie Lebranchu did not die. She lived for 28 more years in perfect health. He also claimed Lemarchand remained ugly and distorted, but in actual reality, she married, had 8 children, and never relapsed. Dr. Boissari later confronted Zola about these fabrications, highlighting the conflict between the author's novel and his experience at the grotto. To maintain his materialist worldview, the author had to invent a tragic ending that never happened. When a witness must invent a relapse to maintain their worldview, the lie itself becomes a crucial piece of evidence for the original healing. We can now finalize our probability by weighing Zola's fabrication against the clinical data. When we factor in the bacteriological confirmation of Lebranchu's disease and her 28-year survival, the naturalistic explanation fails. Her case moves the posterior probability to 75%. Lemarchand's case is even more restrictive, given the instantaneous regeneration of facial tissue witnessed by a hostile observer. Her final derivation breaches the 80% threshold. At this level, the data suggests that these events cannot be explained through natural processes currently known to medicine. The compelling medical evidence suggests that a profound higher power reached into the lives of these two women. This is the Lord coming down. This is Him touching us, and He can touch us too.